Hello, everyone. Welcome to Court with Krissy. On today's docket, back-to-back small claims court cases. Honestly, I only wanted one, but the mediator, he made me do it. I couldn't say no. So you're getting two. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
All right. We will go on the record in the matter 24 SC 120 Aaron Simmons versus Christopher Holmquist. Appearances are we do have Mr. Simmons in person without counsel. We have Mr. Holmquist in person without counsel. We're set today in this matter for a hearing, a de novo hearing. The parties were in front of Commissioner Krupa, and they were heard. However, one or both of the parties requested the matter be heard in front of this court for a new hearing. That's what de novo means. It is to be heard anew. That means that whatever happened at that original hearing in front of the commissioner doesn't count. It is now to be heard again in front of this court, and you must present all of that evidence again.
Well, my evidence was in the car. I didn't know I had to leave all my paperwork in the car.
Are you talking about the exhibit?
The pictures and
I
stuff like
have
that.
one receipt, a Yamaha Wolverine, one receipt, a Suzuki. That's all I have.
Yeah, well, I got pictures that he messed up my 4-wheelers.
Well, everything needs to be done as if it were a new trial here today. So if you
Okay.
have information, I will allow you to quickly go out to your vehicle to retrieve that. You have a half an hour to hold your case, so you may go receive that. So we'll adjourn briefly. If you have any other information or evidence, you may go get that as well. Mr. Lemons?
Yes, can you just remind everybody to have one person speak at a time? I know it's just brief there, but especially with these court trials like this, tends to be an issue, and I just was noticing that earlier. So okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, back on the record, same appearances as previously noted. I'm going to remind each party, you've been here before, so I'm going to remind you that you must, only one person may speak at a time into the microphones. And when you speak, please speak clearly and slowly and into the microphones so that the court reporter may take down everything. I'm going to have both parties, please stand up, raise your right hands, and be sworn in.
Mr. Simmons, please take your hat off. Thank you. Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in these matters shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, you may be seated. Mr. Simmons, this is your case, so you have the burden of proof here. I have reviewed your complaint. You may begin.
Oh, well, it started when my daughter blew up her car. She blew up her car, and I asked Chris, did he have a car for sale? He told me, yeah. He told me, yeah.
Can you please put the microphone a little bit closer?
So it begins when my daughter blew up her car. She needed a car. He had a car in his yard, an SUV, but I don't know what kind it was. But he asked for $1,000 for it or something like that. So I gave him $500 down on it. He needed some work on it. He said he needed some pipe or some pipe work or something on it, or a tire or something. So I gave him $500 down on it. This went on for about a month. And I went back over there and I say, well, I thought all he needed was these little minor parts. He said he needed more money.
All right, first, I don't need anyone to make any kind of head movements, any kind of provided fake testimony from, not you, the people in the back, okay? Because I am only taking testimony from the people who are providing testimony. And that would be, at least right now, Mr. Simmons is speaking. And Mr. Simmons, I am going to ask, what does the purchase of a vehicle have to do with, I believe,
I'm gonna get to that part.
Okay.
This 4-wheelers, I'm gonna get to that part.
All right.
So he had the money for the vehicle, right? I was $500 in. And he said he needed more parts for the vehicle. I got more money from Shelley and said, I need more parts for the vehicle. he was jabbing me the whole time. So I got 4-wheelers. I'm like, hey, why don't you fix this 4-wheeler right here and just knock off, because I don't want the car now. It's been this long. I don't want the car now.
How long had it been?
It's been about 2 months. I was asking him for the car, and my daughter had purchased the car, had purchased a vehicle already. So I took the 4-wheelers over there, and I said, well, hey, just fix my 4-wheelers and just deduct the money that I gave you already.
Wait, are these 4-wheelers or snowmobiles?
These 4-wheelers.
4-wheelers.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. It's a Yamaha and a Suzuki. I bought a Yamaha from Miss Linda Jorgensen, and all that was wrong with it. Well, let me get back to the part when I gave him the money.
When did you give him money?
I gave him money the second time around for the vehicle, and then he couldn't produce the vehicle, so I say
When
fix
did
these.
you give him money?
It was still wintertime, wasn't it?
You can't ask anyone else.
The
best of your recollection.
It was before Christmas, way before Christmas. I say October. It was in October.
October when?
October, say the 15th.
Of what year?
Last year, yeah.
2023?
Yes, ma'am. And I purchased the 4-wheelers from Miss Linda Jorgensen. And he said he can fix my 4-wheelers. So I'm like, okay, deduct the money that I gave you the car from and fix my 4-wheelers because I don't want the car. Because it's been so long, my daughter had bought a car already. So I didn't want the vehicle no more. I just want him to, since he had the money, fix my 4-wheelers. Because I wanted to plow my yard. It was wintertime. Okay. I took the 4-wheelers over there. I took one of the 4-wheelers over there. It needed a little work on it because it was sitting up. I understood that. And I went and bought another 4-wheeler from Miss Linda Jorgensen, and all it needed was a starter. That's all it needed. And she said that all it needed was a starter. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Okay, I took my 4-wheeler over there, both 4-wheelers. He had my 4-wheelers since May. From October, from November, I would say. From November to May, he had my 4-wheelers, and I was over there every week asking for my 4-wheelers. Every week. You know, if he wasn't there, he was sick. His wife said he was sick, or he wasn't there. I just missed him. All this mess, right? So I get mad. And he still said he needed more money for parts. And I'm like, well, one of the 4-wheelers I needed was a starter. So I bought the starter. Okay, now he took the starter apart and he said I needed a gasket. This is the gasket that go around the housing for the starter. There's a gasket. The starter is back here, right? He took that off and put some glue. He told me to order the gasket. I ordered the gasket. He couldn't wait on the gasket. Just the gasket right here. He put some seal around it, messed that up. And he took all the good parts off this 4-wheeler right here and put all these jive parts on it, off another old 4-wheeler right here. And these right here is old parts that he took off.
You're trying to show pictures. This doesn't help me understand, and it's not helping the story flow. I'm very confused as to, all I have right now is I think you gave him $500, and I'm thinking it was originally for a down payment of a car.
Right.
And I'm thinking it was on or around October 15th, 2023.
Right.
That's all I have.
Okay.
And I'm hearing that one of the 4-wheelers you bought from Linda Jorgensen needed a starter.
Right.
But that's all.
Right. That's all it needed was a starter. That's all the 4-wheeler needed was a starter. Altogether, I have gave him $1,000 altogether for this car. I gave him two $500 sets of $500 for this car.
I've only heard one $500 in October.
Right. And he said he needed more money. And I gave him another $500 to put parts on the car, but he never got the parts for the car. So I brought the 4-wheelers over there because he couldn't produce the car. I didn't want the car.
Okay, you have to prove that you gave him money, at least, at the very least, with some testimony. And you're just saying you gave him more money. I don't know how much. I don't know when. I don't know in what method.
Well, he wouldn't sign no papers. Every time I go over there, I couldn't find him.
Okay, but you can provide testimony. I'm hearing nothing. I don't know how much. I don't know when. Where, who, where, when, what, and how. Those are the things that you have to answer. Who,
I gave
where,
Chris,
when, what, how,
I gave Chris the money. I gave Chris $500.
when.
October the 15th.
You've already went over that payment.
Okay. And I went back in November, the 1st of November, when I got my check, the 1st of November, I asked Shelley to give me $500 to go over there to give Chris. I went to Chris' house to give him because he said he needed more money. That's the second $500 I gave him. So he couldn't produce the car at his house. The car was at his house, and he couldn't produce the car because I guess he spent the money. I don't know what he did with the money. So instead, I had my 4-wheelers at home. One of the 4-wheelers was at my house. And I was looking for another 4-wheeler to plow. So I went to Miss Jorgensen and I asked her, could I buy her 4-wheeler? Because she had 2 or 3 4-wheelers. Right, you following me?
I'm following.
Okay. And I asked her, could I buy her 4-wheeler? So I bought the 4-wheeler and he said he can put the start on it. He said, and I can put the start on it. And I said, well, you got $1,000 in on me. You got $1,000 in, just deduct the money from the car, from the 4-wheelers. He agreed to it. So I brought the 4-wheelers to his house, to Chris' house, and I dropped the 4-wheelers off. And he had the 4-wheelers for like 2-3 months, didn't do nothing with them. So I said, hey, what you gonna do with the 4-wheelers? He said, I needed parts. So I got the starter for the 4-wheeler. I bought the starter and I gave it to him. I gave it to Chris. I went to his house and I gave it to him. So I don't know how long it took him to put the starter on, but 3 weeks later, I went back. The starter wasn't put on there. He said, I need a gasket. I ordered this gasket. It took 7 days from Dennis Kurt to get the gasket to him to fix the 4-wheeler. He couldn't wait for the gaskets to come back. So he took it apart and put some sealer on the 4-wheeler and proceed taking parts. All the new parts of that was off the 4-wheeler that I bought from Miss Jorgensen onto another 4-wheeler. So, oh my God. So he said, look at it, I need some more money. It was just around Christmas. This was around Christmas time. He said, I need some more money. He said, I'm down, I ain't working right now, and my family is down and I need money for Christmas. So I went to my daughter Erica and got $500 from her and gave him I gave him $480 because I kept $20. I said, I'm broke too, man. I said, here go $480. I kept 20 of it. This was around Christmas, around the 22nd or the 21st, around Christmas time. So I haven't saw him since. He passed by my house. So I gets mad and I go around there and me and Megan gets into it. Because I was asking about my money or my 4-wheelers. She said she needed more money. And I'm like, I'm not giving you no more money. There was $1,400 and $80 in the rear with me. And they still asking for more money. And And yeah. And when I get my 4-wheelers, they all messed up. Both of my 4-wheelers are still messed up. They not running, and he got my money, and they still not running. He rewired everything wrong. I got pictures right here. I mean,
So neither of the 4-wheelers work.
no, they still not running. He fired it up after we called the police. We called the police to go get my 4-wheelers because he wouldn't produce them. He got my 4-wheelers in $1,400 and some dollars, and we had to call the cops. And this was in the last snow in March or something like that. This in March. We had to call the cops the last snow and to get my 4-wheelers. We called the police twice. So the second time, he produced the 4-wheelers. I brought him back on the trail. I got him back home ready to ride, not rideable. I looked at the 4-wheelers, all kind of cut wires, all kind of plate parts that wasn't on it was on it. And it's a mess. And they're not even running still. And he got my money and my 4-wheelers is not running.
Are you asking the court to take any of those photographs or anything as evidence?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, then you need to come and ask the clerk to mark them, and then you will need to first show them to Mr. Holmquist, and then you will need to explain them to the court what I am looking at or going to be looking at.
Okay.
So figure out which photos you wish for the court to receive as evidence and then come have them marked. After he does so, then Mr. Holmquist, you will get an opportunity to look at those photographs. And then Mr. Simmons will get an opportunity to finish his testimony and you will get to question him. Then you will be able to provide your own testimony.
Okay.
All right, now show Mr. Holmquist. And then you can explain to the court what it is that you would like me to know about those. All right, what would you like me to know about those?
Talking to me?
What would you, yes.
Oh, well, this picture here, he rewired something in here and it's all red wires and no black wires, ground or whatever that is he hooked up, rewired. This right here, he said he fixed my brakes and stuff. There's no brake pad on there. He's riding on the rotor right here. It's all rotor right here. There's no brake pads or nothing on there. And this one right here is live wires on the Yamaha that he took the starter or something off on right here. It's all live wires. And the lady told me there wasn't nothing wrong with it but a starter. He took the starter off and rewired something on there. When I fired it up, it sparked and it started smoking, so I left it alone.
All right, okay. Now you can bring those pictures up to me, please. Anything else that you would like the court to know? And then once you are back to your seat, you can tell me. These are now the courts.
You want the gasket too?
No, I don't need the gasket. All right, anything else you want the court to know, Mr. Simmons?
No, ma'am. Oh, he keep riding by my house late at night with his loud truck, interrupting us at night. Shelly was doing a walk the other morning. He stopped his truck and blew some black smoke in our face. And I appreciate it if he stopped messing with us.
Well, that's not a part of this case.
No.
Mr. Holmquist, do you have questions for Mr. Simmons? And please have the microphone closer to your mouth.
I guess really I don't have any questions other than what he just said. My truck's been down for almost a month, so
Okay,
it don't leave the yard.
so you don't have any questions for him based upon his testimony?
Actually, yeah, on them pictures you got, he stated something on a red wire that I replaced. If you look at that, the only thing I replaced on that was a blue wire end. And that
this
is
a
for-
question time only to
Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Simmons.
sorry,
He'll be
then
able to
no.
testify later.
Nope, then nothing.
No questions. Okay. Mr. Simmons, do you have any other witnesses who can provide any support, as in any payments you've made or any work that they may have seen Mr. Holmquist provide on these four-wheelers, or anything else related to this case?
No, ma'am, I wasn't there when he was working on it.
No.
I mean,
Anyone who may have any information? You have any other witnesses?
no, nobody but me and Shelley, because I went home and told her everything, what was going on.
But she didn't witness anything
No,
else?
no, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Mr. Holmquist, so you're resting your case on what you've stated here today?
Yes, ma'am.
And, so what I've heard from you is that you've paid $1,480.
Yes,
All right, Mr. Holmquist, you have some testimony, and I believe you filed a counterclaim.
Yes.
All right, you may begin.
So yes, Mr. Simmons did come to me asking me about a car. He gave me $500 down. The car was pretty much fixed. He kept coming down and telling me he wanted to take it. I told him when it was paid for, I would finish it and he could take it. By the time it was finished,
Anyone want to tell me how much the total price would have been?
the price for the car would have been $1,500.
Okay. All right.
So by the time that he decided he didn't want the car anymore, I had his four-wheelers there for a while. I took in, tore them apart one at a time. I have all my receipts and everything of what was done to it. I have a witness also that was there when we repaired them. He only gave me two payments. One was a $500 payment at the beginning, and in December of 23, he gave me another $480 payment.
Okay.
I have all my receipts right here for you. He came down, asked me to go through the Suzuki four-wheeler. It had multiple issues. It had water and ice in the air cleaner box, in the carburetor, everything. I asked him if he would get a carburetor for it. He brought me a carburetor. He brought me fuel line. He asked me if I would fix the petcock for the fuel. If I would look at the rear brakes because they didn't work, and this was on the green Suzuki. We needed a master cylinder, so I replaced that. He bought it. My friend Aaron that works with me, he bled the rear brakes with me, and we added fluid. The four-wheeler the front drive shaft was broke when it came to me. It needed a universal joint. Aaron ordered that. They sent us the wrong one twice. Finally, the third time we got it, so it took a little while. I replaced a screw and some plastic clips to hold the panels on it because when it came, they were just in a pile. And that total come up to be $429.10 on the green Suzuki. If I go over to the Yamaha Wolverine, the blue four-wheeler, we did removal and installation of a carburetor or starter, I'm sorry. Went through, checked air pressure and put valve stem caps. We cleaned the carburetor. And there was one air fuel mixture jet that was stripped out. We figured we'd try to get around it by leaving it so we didn't have to buy another carburetor. We changed the spark plug, put screws in the airbox because it wasn't bolted down. Removal and installation of a one-way starter gear because the teeth were chewed off it. I did a oil change on it. A quart of AMSOIL tranny fluid here. Front and rear brake adjustment. Put gas in it because it was dry. Charged it for a can of carb cleaner and replaced the fuel line on this one also. one round wire connector for the plow, which would have been in that picture that he handed you, that red wire. That was just laying down in the battery. I put a blue end on it so that the winch works so the plow would go up and down. We checked the rear and front brake fluids in it and they were good. And overall, he come down, he picked that one up. He rode it around for a week and a half possibly.
No,
Nope. You don't get it.
And then he came back and said it wouldn't shift into fifth gear. And I said, okay, that's fine. I stopped down to his house and I changed the adjustment on the shifter. Then it shifted fifth gear. That's when he brought up that the brake pads weren't right and the brakes weren't working. He came down to my house and I had to drill out that air fuel mixture jet that was stripped out. I drilled that and replaced it with one out of a brand new carburetor that I have at home on a 4-wheeler that hadn't been ran yet because he wanted it fixed now and not later. So, and that's pretty much what I have for you. I never cut any wires. I mean, I replaced wire ends.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Holmquist, you said that you have an individual here who helped work on these two with you?
Yes,
And what is his name?
Aaron Bernizer.
Aaron Bernizer.
Correct.
Did Aaron Bernizer work on both of those 4-wheelers with you?
Correct, yes.
And would you be asking the court for what's called an offer of proof that he would provide testimony similar to what you provided testimony to with regards to the work that was done on both of those machines?
I would assume so, yes.
So if he were to testify, he would testify as to pretty similarly to what you testified to and provided, which work and parts were done to both of those machines?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the court will receive that as an offer of proof, and I won't require his testimony here today. Mr. Simmons, do you have any testimony or questions for Mr. Holmquist as to his testimony today?
yeah,
And questions only.
you know, I gave you that
And
money.
make sure you talk in the microphone.
Yeah.
And not statements, questions.
Okay, if you fix my 4-wheeler, they are not still running. I mean, you got my money, but they're not running. I mean,
I don't understand.
I said he had my money, but my 4-wheelers are not running. He said he fixed them, but they're not running, and he still have my money.
Well, I can tell you the problem here, Mr. Simmons. I can tell you the problem, and I can tell you probably the issue that was in front of the commissioner. I don't know if they're running. I don't have a mechanic here. You don't have a witness here who is a mechanic who has looked at these machines, who can provide testimony here today to say that he's at least looked over these machines and he can testify that they're not running. Okay, so that's the issue today. So I can't tell you that they're not running. I can't tell you that they are running. I can't tell you that Mr. Holmquist didn't do a proper job doing his work. I can tell you though, I have questions though. Did you buy a carburetor and fuel line for him?
Yes, I did.
Did you buy brakes and fluid for him?
Fluid? Yes, I did.
And brakes?
Yeah, and brakes? Yes, I did.
Did you buy a master cylinder for him?
Yes, I did.
Did you buy a universal joint drive shaft for him?
Yeah, he told me to buy that.
And you did?
Yes.
Did you buy, well, maybe you didn't buy the screws and the plastic clips, but you bought all of those parts that he said that were necessary and needed, correct?
Yeah.
He didn't buy parts. You bought the parts and he installed them, correct?
Yeah.
And here's the deal here. But Mr. Holmquist, first, do you have any other information? You have a counterclaim. Do you have any testimony as to that?
Just that they were inside all winter long. They were stored inside of a building.
But did you have an agreement with him that he
No.
pay anything for
No.
that? All right.
No.
So
And
your counterclaim fails.
okay,
All
and
right.
also,
because you didn't have an agreement that he'd pay you anything, that you'd store them for any duration of time, and that he would pay you to do that. All right,
Okay.
so that fails. And Mr. Simmons, I feel for you. I do. The problem with buying used equipment is the fact that you don't, and new equipment too. Nowadays, quite honestly, you can buy something brand spanking new off the line, and you're not guaranteed it'll work. You're guaranteed you'll have a warranty that you can put it in and you can get it fixed. But you could get a lemon, you could bring it in, and it still may not be fixed. But you're not guaranteed to have a perfectly running and working machine. You're just not. And when you buy an old vehicle, and here I'm going to tell you, I wasn't told the year. I was told the make. I was not told, well, I was told a Yamaha Wolverine and a Suzuki or those things, but I was not told a year. I don't know the exact condition. I was not told anything, but you bought something used from a person, an older lady, mind you, because the court will take judicial notice that I know Miss Jorgensen, not personally, but of knowledge of here and there in court, here and there. And I'm going to tell you, she's an older lady who's not a mechanic, who doesn't understand or doesn't have specific personal mechanical knowledge, who can't say for sure that only a starter is wrong with the machine. I can tell you that. I can tell you that if you buy a used vehicle, you take a risk. You take a risk that not only will a starter be wrong with it, there will be multiple other things wrong with it. You buy something used and you give it to a mechanic. And I'm not sure if Mr. Holmquist is a licensed mechanic, but you take it to a mechanic, and once you go, the starter's wrong with it, and they go, yep, the starter's wrong with it. They get in, they dig into it. They're like, oh, there's more wrong with it than the starter. The valve stem's wrong. We have the master cylinder's wrong. We have the carburetor's wrong. All, things are going wrong with it. They're faulty. They're failing. I know this because my father's a mechanic. All right. And I know that you can't just say one thing is wrong, because once you go in and you start one thing, you find this, that, and the other needs to be replaced. And it becomes like you keep throwing money into these machines. Sometimes you get lucky and it's only one thing, and you can fix one thing and you can move on. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you get the deal of a lifetime, but sometimes you don't. And that's unfortunate. I do believe, Mr. Simmons, though, I do find him credible, Mr. Holmquist, that he paid you $1,480. I find that credible. Because $1,480, that's a unique number. That's not, like he said, and that's why I kept asking him, I need to know dates. I need you to be certain. I need you to tell me and be specific and clear. I'm not going to rely off of some written petition where you have time to think about it. You need to think on the spot. And he was able to come up with the dates and times, October, November, and sometime around Christmas, that he paid $500, $500, and $480. And money was originally designated towards a vehicle, which never happened. Why it didn't, I don't know. And that doesn't matter for this case. But it didn't happen. And then he was honest, and he said he originally borrowed $500 from his daughter, and then he pocketed 20. Well, there he told his daughter, I don't know, but he took 20 and he only gave you $480. I can't say that Mr. Holmquist didn't do the work, because I have the invoice and I have that you paid for the actual parts. And I'm looking at the invoices here and they seem reasonable. I don't have a mechanic here to testify on your behalf, Mr. Simmons, that says it's not reasonable, that the machines aren't working, that this red wire was cut or was improperly replaced by Mr. Holmquist. I'm not finding that anything is wrong with anything in these pictures other than what you're saying. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a four-wheeler expert. That's where you have to show me and prove to me that there's something askew in these pictures that should jump out and I should go, oh, you're right. If I'm looking at this, you're right. This is not correct. I'm not an expert. You have to show me, or you have to have a person direct that to me, not you, because you're not an expert. That's where you need a mechanic to testify on your behalf. But again, I do find you credible that you paid $1,480. I do find Mr. Holmquist credible enough with his receipts. Therefore, with deducting the amount of the receipts that have been, that show the work and denying his claim for any keeping of the four-wheelers housed and out of weather, I am going to issue a decision and judgment in the amount of $788.25 to Mr. Simmons. Mr. Holmquist, you owe Mr. Simmons $788.25 plus costs, service fees, and all other court costs and fees associated with filing of this action. It is to be paid immediately. And if not, then you could face other consequences such as contempt of court and sanctions, etc. All right, anything further, Mr. Simmons?
No, ma'am.
Anything further, Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, I won't be able to pay it anytime soon. I'm out of work because I'm injured.
All right, but you got to figure it out.
All
Otherwise,
right.
you could face other actions from the court, but that would be in Mr. Holmquist's hand or Simmons' hand.
All right, thank you.
We are adjourned. All right,
Thank you.
Carly, not Carly.
Okay, we'll call the case of James Herrenberg versus Dan Clark. Looks like Mr. Herrenberg is here. It looks like you're muted. If you would unmute. Mr. Herrenberg. And is Mr. Clark here? If Mr. Clark is here, if you would unmute.
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
and who is that? Is that Mr.
Daniel
Clark?
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Herrenberg?
Yeah, I didn't know how to
Okay,
unmute
looks
it.
like, okay, that's fine. Looks like we have both parties here today. And this is set, I think for entry of judgment, probably. I don't have the notice in front of me. And it's my understanding this went through mediation and the parties both agreed to the mediation result. And it's also my understanding that Mr. Herrenberg is objecting to that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I told him immediately
Okay,
when I
thank
got
you.
on there.
Okay, I know.
Okay,
Okay, that was a yes or no answer. Thank you.
yes,
And Mr. Clark, do you know that Mr. Herrenberg is objecting to the mediation resolution?
I don't know. I was supposed to meet him at 11 o'clock to pay him and he didn't show. And then I got a call from the court saying that didn't agree to the
Okay.
agreement.
that'd be a yes.
Okay. So Mr. Herrenberg, so you're requesting that the mediation be set aside, is that correct?
Yes, I would actually
Okay.
like, oh, sorry.
Why, okay, and why are you requesting it be set aside? Because usually when two people agree, that's a binding, a
I
binding
didn't
matter.
agree. The mediator just like berated me into it. I told him immediately when I got on there, I wanted to go to trial. And they were like 2 hours late and then he argued with me the whole time.
Okay, and but you signed off on it?
Sorta. But I called
Okay,
Hope
well-
O'Banion and she said that she would get rid of it. Because I called her the next day.
Okay, well, she doesn't have that power, it's the court that has that power, but it's, are you ready to argue why it should be set aside?
Well, yeah, that guy, I asked
Okay,
for it to go
okay,
to
that was a
trial.
yes, that was yes or no
Okay.
again, yes or no.
Yes,
And Mr. Clark, are you ready to argue why it should not be set aside?
I I had a legal contract signed. I thought I was done. I drove up from Detroit to pay him, and my time is worth
Okay,
something.
but
No, I would.
okay.
Yeah, I have no idea why I'm here. Didn't hire the guy. I don't know.
Okay, well, we could go forward with a hearing today, whether or not it should be set aside, okay?
I think it should not be. I'm willing. I agree.
Okay, and you're ready to go forward today on that issue?
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Herrenberg, are you ready to go forward on that issue then today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you both to raise your hands. We're going to swear you both in, okay? If you both raise your right hand, okay, so do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this hearing will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Herrenberg, why do you think this should be set aside?
Well, when I first got it, I called the mediators and asked them to throw it out, or that I didn't want to mediate. And they told me I couldn't do that. So I called the courthouse and asked them that. And then they told me I had to go to mediation. Immediately when the mediation started, I told him I wanted to go to trial. And he just kept trying to give me legal advice and stuff, which I didn't ask for. They were 3 hours, like 2 or 3 hours late. And they can't tell me what time he showed up and whether he sat there the whole time. So I don't even know if he was late. So that would have been a default judgment. Nobody can tell me what time anything happened.
Okay, but there was a mediation held.
Yes. And immediately when it
Okay.
opened up, I told him I wanted to go to trial. I didn't think I had to argue with him for an hour after that.
Well, often in mediation, people say they want to go to trial, but then they resolve it through mediation as well. So
I
that's
must
not
have
the,
told. Oh, I told
Okay,
him
but-
about 20 times.
okay, well, that's probably more than most times, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I really
With that
wanted to
part,
take
yeah.
it to trial
Okay.
because I want someone who's in charge to hear it.
So if you wanted to go to trial, why did you sign off?
Because he made me. I have PTSD. He just kept berating me and intimidating me. I was shaken. I was so freaked out from it. I couldn't get him to leave me alone.
Okay, do you know the name of the mediator?
I do not. And I called the mediation place to file a complaint, and they don't even know how to file a complaint in their own place. And they said they had an excellent record. Well, it's not an excellent record if you can't file a complaint.
So, but you don't know his name, so you wouldn't know who to file a complaint against. Is that right then? They wouldn't
Well,
give you that information?
They didn't give me that information, no. And I talked to the head of the mediation place, and they couldn't even tell me what time he was on there.
Okay.
And that was late, so I don't know if he came in and left. Because if he left, I sat on here for like 3 hours in the waiting room. If you leave the waiting room, it should be over. Because
So you said okay.
Dan.
He was on. Okay. So you think he may have been late?
Yeah. Or he left the room. If he left that waiting room, that shouldn't count either.
Okay.
Because they called me too and told me they were running late. So I figured he hung up and called back because he was on a telephone.
Okay. And so, Mr. Clark, do you know the name of the mediator?
I don't have it with me. No, I could find out.
Okay. That's okay.
But he was late because I was driving downstate and I left Frankfurt and I was in Thompsonville, which is 30 minutes. So he was about 30 minutes late coming on to the mediation. And then he put us in a private room and he spoke to the plaintiff for probably an hour. I was on hold. The whole thing, by the time I got to Big Rapids, an hour and a half was over. He had signed off and I was on my way to downstate.
Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Herrenberg, it's your position, you were signed off, but was this really under duress? Is that correct?
Yeah, as you can tell, he talked to me for like an hour and he only talked to him for like 2 minutes. He just talked to him, then he'd come back and tell me that Dan had some irrefutable evidence. Well, we don't have any evidence there. So I don't know how he had evidence. He said he had a witness, and I know the witness. He fired the witness from his own job. So he was saying he had a contract. You can't fire someone with a contract. And it was a totally illegal job site is the other thing. That was the reason I wanted to take it to trial, so it would be on the record.
Okay. And there was a Zoom hearing, so that you weren't physically intimidated, is that correct?
No, but he just kept going on and on and on. When I say I want to go to trial, he like 10 times. I shouldn't have to keep going for another 45 minutes.
We're in a hearing, yeah. Thanks. Was the mediation situation where the mediator talked to each individually, or was there a group meeting as well where both sides were there?
Individually.
Okay. Is that correct? Is that your recollection, Mr. Clark?
That is correct.
It would be helpful, obviously, if the mediator was here so we could hear his point of view. Nobody's asked him to testify, so I guess we don't have that.
The mediation place is no help for any of that information.
I understand.
They couldn't answer any questions.
That's unfortunate.
I always get the short end of the stick. That's the only reason I'm here.
So, but you did sign off on the mediation agreement.
Well,
and
the mediation place told me nothing they do is legal.
Pardon?
The mediation place said nothing they do is legal when I talked to them.
Well,
so I didn't get that.
Okay, when did you
I called them the day, I called them the next morning after that.
Okay. But you signed a memorandum of understanding, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, and when did you sign that? The day of the mediation?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Clark signed it as well.
So I have a question for you real quick. What time does the mediation place close? They have regular hours, don't they?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not a mediator. Okay. Imagine they do. So, but I have no idea. You know, Mr. Herrenberg, this seems like you're very strong today in your position, and it's hard to believe that a mediator could get you to sign something that you didn't want to sign.
I get stressed
Okay.
out after a while, especially when someone keeps arguing with me and saying the same thing over and over. I have PTSD and I have defiant disorder where I get really, really mad. So
Yeah.
I try not to get into it. That was basically my only way to get away from that guy. Because I tried for an hour to get him to leave me alone. Because I didn't want to sit there and argue with him. I just wanted to go to trial. I called the day I got the paperwork in the mail for the mediation and tried to go to trial.
So the next day you called, right? And you wanted to go
Yeah.
to trial, but a lot of times
First thing in the morning.
A lot of times people have regret right away after they do something.
Well, all I wanted was to get paid for my 38 hours at 25 bucks an hour. I cleaned up a water damage job that was all black mold without safety equipment.
Yeah, we're not into that yet. I mean, that's. Okay, and the mediation result was $800, which is a lot less than you were asking for. You were asking for over $6,000.
I just did that to try and get him to call me and straighten it out. But he's like 2 years old.
And it was supposed to be paid on at no later than 5 p.m. on November 13th. And Mr. Clark, did you say you were there to pay it? Explain that to me.
Cheap.
Mr.
I was
Clark,
on my way there.
Okay.
Yeah, he demanded cash, so I had to go to the bank and drive up from Detroit. So I was about 10 minutes away when the court called me and said that he had backed out of the backed out of the agreement because he can't take a check or can't get paid because it's all under the table for him because he's on disability. So I had to get cash, which I was there at Menard in the parking lot, and he did not show.
Okay, you were in Menard's parking lot, or were you on your way up?
Well, when they called, I was on my way up. I was about 3 minutes away. So I pulled in and then I turned around and went back to Frankfurt.
So he wasn't there.
Were you there?
No, the court told me not to come because I asked them about that. I ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
She said she'd just give me a court date.
Okay, and here we are. And why did you want it in cash, not a check?
Because he writes bad checks. All my friends have gotten bad checks from him.
Excuse me, Mr. Clark, one at a time. Please don't interrupt.
He writes bad checks to people. That's why. Plus, I worked 2 days before, and the moment I got done, they paid me $300 in cash. You can't keep changing the way you pay people. I've already been through that with the labor board for another job.
Okay. Okay. So are you okay to meet him or not?
Yeah, I don't mind meeting him.
And Mr. Clark, can you come up again?
I can come up again, sure.
Okay.
But I have never written a bad check.
Okay. Okay, stop that. Stop. Come on, we have to act adult here, okay? Both sides, and everybody's good, okay?
I'm sorry.
One can't interrupt, and one can't, we're in court. You may not feel like you're in court. You might be on a phone, or you might be on your computer, but we're in court, okay? And this is not Judge Judy, okay?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens. So wouldn't it be easier for everybody if you just wrote you a check for $800? I mean, if I don't,
I'm fine with that.
I don't, if I enforce the mediation, wouldn't that be easier for you, sir?
I don't know. Every time I do
You-
something with the court or something, I seem to lose. I was the only one who showed up and I lost. I just want to be heard. Nobody ever listened.
Okay. Well, I hear a lot of cases. And I'm happy to hear a case, but if there's a mediation agreement, usually that's binding.
Well,
And
how do I
understand that, I understand you're not happy about it.
well,
But that can happen too.
I don't get how the mediator can sit there and just, I'm 52 years old. If I say I want to go to trial, it should be over. There shouldn't be an hour of argument. I don't need that. That made me, I was screwed up for a whole day from that. And I'm not on disability, I'm disabled. They won't give me disability. So I'm destitute and I have no money. So I did that job to get money.
What, you didn't want to settle. I understand that part, but why did you signed off on it knowing that it was going to be, you're going to only get $800 and not $6,000. So
I didn't want the 6,000. I just wanted the $25 for 38, $25, and I had 38 hours. And I told them, they asked me how much, and I charged, and I told them 25. No one ever negotiated with me. They just told me to go to work.
Okay.
I just want
So
my
basically
money.
you wanted, okay. So you wanted $25 times
38.
40 hours, right? 38 hours. So that's roughly $1,000 and you settle for 800.
Well, he
That seems
also
like it's in
has
the
my
ballpark.
tools. He has some of my tools too. So I would.
Okay, Mr. Clark, do you have any of his tools?
I do not. He
Mr.
doesn't
Clark?
work for me. He's for the subcontractor I hired.
Can I
Did
see
he
the
leave any
contract?
tools? Okay. Did he leave any tools on your property?
I do not know. I have not been to that property in months. If there are tools there, he can come get them. I don't have a problem with that. I don't know what tools he would have. It was just cleaning up and shoveling and raking and pulling some nails.
Okay, Mr. Herrenberg, where are your tools?
They're in that job. They locked the doors and took the keys after that when they told me they didn't want me to go anymore. And also, why would anyone write a contract as a contractor for a job if it's been over a year and he hasn't done anything? No drywaller is going to sit there for a year and wait for him to get all the other things done. They're going to change their price.
We're talking about tools, right?
Right.
That's what I thought. Yes.
I had a square point shovel and a 2-gallon pump sprayer, my extension cord, and a radio. And I was in there dismantling toilets and taking out showers and window frames and a water softener. It wasn't just cleaning up. I crawled underneath there. So they had a gas leak too.
Okay, the square shovel, etc. Why did you leave him on the property?
Because I was going to come back and work, and then they called me not to come back anymore because they didn't want me getting too many hours.
Okay, and do you have any idea where those tools are? Are they still on the property, or are they the general contractor? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea because there were other people working there. They might have took them. I have no idea.
Usually tools that are left around end up gone. So
yeah.
Okay. So basically, you settled for $800, and you would have settled for $1,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, based upon that, I think it's that it's the memorandum of understanding is pretty reasonable. And what if we have Mr. Clark mail you a check? Now, obviously, if that check's not any good, you would have, some recourse there as well. Do you understand that? Because I don't think you two should be in the same parking lot.
No, that's why I didn't want him on the same call for the mediator. But also, too, I was going to say, crap, no, I forgot.
Well, okay, well, we're doing, seem like we're doing okay that have you both on the same call somewhat here today. Obviously, we had to rein people in at various times, but
well, I just took my PTSD medicine, so I didn't want to be.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Well, you're doing fine. So appreciate that. So what if we just indicate that he has to mail you a check, $800, okay? And if that check's not good, obviously you have your own things you can do, and I'm sure Mr. Clark will make sure he sends you a good check because he knows that. And that, because I don't think it makes sense to have you guys meet anywhere together, because obviously there's still some.
I wanted to tell you too, the other reason I don't get a check is because I can't cash one. I'm destitute. I don't have a bank account. They knew that before. Okay. And I told them I had epilepsy. I had a seizure a month before I went and did this job.
Okay.
So that's pretty mad about
check.
It. I'm just
okay,
saying.
So a check won't. Do you have someone that could cash that you could sign the check over to, and they could cash it in their account and give you $800?
Well, I was going to say, you can get a money order, a cashier's check.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what
okay,
I mean?
Mr. Clark, are you willing to do a money order?
Yeah, I can get a certified check from my bank.
Okay, so if he gets a certified check, that would make the deal go forward. Then is that correct?
I would still like the $1,000. I'm destitute. $200 is huge to me. I have nothing.
Well, well, I see now why you agreed to $800 as opposed to, because it's close to what you want. And so I find that the mediation really.
The mediator told me that $200 wasn't that much, but he's not destitute. So I don't care how much.
I understand, but I think it's reasonable given, the facts that you provided the court with, that you settled for $800. It's also reasonable that you regret that you did it, because most people regret that they settle anyways, because that doesn't make them whole. So
I just wanted to get paid for my hours was all I wanted.
I understand.
He could have called me within a year and straightened this out.
Okay, we're going to enter a judgment based upon the mediation results. So it'll be $800, okay?
Okay.
And we're going to say that has to be paid via certified check or money order, and it has to be received by you. He has your address on the mediation, different mediation documents. That is okay. So, and Mr. Clark, how soon can you get that in the mail?
I can go down the bank now.
Okay. So
what's the zip code up there?
Okay, and you should have that on various documents from the court.
Yeah. If not, I can call the court and get the information. And on the spelling of your name.
Okay, and we'll enter a judgment on the mediation for $800. Okay.
And I was going to ask you too. The other reason I wanted to take it to trial because I wanted to go on his credit report that he didn't pay someone for a year.
Well, I don't know if that'd be on a credit report. It'll be a judgment entered pursuant to mediation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on 7 and 4 News there.
Okay, anything further?
I really would like you to watch that video, but you're probably not gonna.
I'm not going to watch it now because the court's finding that the judgment should be entered based upon mediation, although we are changing it so you don't have to meet in a parking lot together because the court doesn't think that would be a good idea for either side. Anything further?
See, that's why I couldn't get paid before. I couldn't drive. And they hide out in Benvie, so.
Okay, so we will go forward on that basis then.
Yeah.
Okay. So get the check in the mail. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both. Good luck to both sides.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the state
Bye now.
inspector. I don't know how to hang up.
Okay. Are you on the phone? Just hang up.
I'm on Zoom.
Okay, just click off. Okay.
I'll just shut it. I'm not used to using any of this anymore.
If you
Thank
shut
you.
it off, it'll be fine. That'll work. Thank you.
All right. I can't get the thing to pop up. Well,
You got a whole bunch of them open too.
I know.
I can't imagine how many I have open.
Shut